What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports here to give you the edge for this Packers vs 49ers showdown slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future NFL content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.dgfantasy.com. On dgfantasy.com, we give you cheat sheets for every major sport, along with ownership projections, actual projections, and strategy for every single slate. We also cover optimal cash plays as well as preferred GPP plays and stacks for specific contest sizes. We do the dirty work for you. We are also currently partnered with Fantasy Cruncher, the best optimizer in the industry. When signing up for our $30 package, you also get a $20 credit to use towards any Fantasy Cruncher product. We provide the best value in the industry. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this Green Bay Packers versus the 49ers slate here. It is a 50.5 over-under, and I always start out by talking about the defenses. Why? Because that's going to paint a picture for the rest of the slate. The big question is, are defenses viable for the slate? The answer to that question is going to be no. Probably not. This is a very high-scoring game. The 49ers are actually favored by 3 points at home. Honestly, if I was a betting man, I might lean a little bit more on that Green Bay Packers money line just based on how they looked in their last game. But nonetheless, still a 3-point spread. I think the 49ers have also looked pretty good. Let's actually start out on the Green Bay side here, talking about the quarterback situation, and that is Aaron Rodgers. He will be very chalky. Obviously, the better of the two quarterbacks on the slate, 11.8K, and I think he's going to be a fantastic cash option. If you guys are playing GPPs, you always pair Aaron Rodgers with a captain wide receiver and or catching back out of the backfield. Aaron Jones did catch a receiving touchdown, I believe, in the last game, so if you paired Aaron Rodgers with Aaron Jones, you did benefit there as well. You always put Aaron Rodgers in a flex position if you have a wide receiver in the captain spot. I'm talking about those Davante Adams captainers. So Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be very cash viable. If you want to put him in the captain spot, I don't recommend doing that unless it's a smaller GBP, because we all know that quarterbacks in general are rarely optimal unless they're a rushing first quarterback. I'm talking about Lamar Jackson. But if you're passing first, Aaron Rodgers will not be the optimal captain unless he goes off for 2 rushing touchdowns, which very highly unlikely. So 39.2% ownership right now for him. Switching over to the running back situation, Aaron Jones. We got to talk about Aaron Jones because he went off last game. Got 3 touchdowns. The game before that did the exact opposite, got 4.2 points. So I can only expect that the ownership's going to be highly inflated on Aaron Jones. Therefore, I think he might be a pretty sharp fade. I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying if you want to get different, 11.2K and he's 38.1% owned here. And I think even that's a little inaccurate. I think he's going to be very high owned based on what he did last game. This is a better defense he is playing. 11.2K, a very hefty price tag. And I feel like it allows you to get a lot more flexible if you do fade him and favor a lot more on the 49ers side as well. Let's talk about AJ Dillon here on the backside. 2.6K price tag. That is very intriguing. Just in terms of the price tag, what I did is I pulled up the snap counts here. Let's actually take a look at the snap counts. AJ Dillon, he's only playing 28.7% of the snaps. If you guys look here on the right side of my screen, over the past 2 games here. So I am not a huge fan of him just in terms of sheer upside, but again, 2.6K, very cheap. Could steal a touchdown, could be a slate breaker. Has gotten 3.6 points, very consistent over the previous 2 weeks. So expect 3.6 points from him yet again. At 2.6K, he has to hit 4.2 fantasy points for that to make sense off that price tag. So at 19.9%, I don't hate him. I don't love him. I'm just kind of neutral on him as a last piece. Switching over here to the wide receiver position, Davante Adams going to be very, very chalky as well. You got to have Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, and Aaron Jones probably in your cash lineup. They're going to garner a ton of ownership there, showing the highest owned on the slate at 43.9% owned. Now, people are probably going to overreact to him in the opposite direction. I think his ownership could be a little bit lower than 43.9% because he didn't have the best game last game. Still did pretty good, 23.1. But we're looking for those ceiling potential games where Davante Adams goes off for 40 DraftKings points. So him and Aaron Jones, if you're deciding between the two, good luck. I lean Davante Adams because of the ownership. It's going to probably end up being a little bit lower based on what he did last game compared to Aaron Jones. Let's talk about these other wide receivers. They literally did not catch a ball last game. Valdes-Scantling was targeted 4 total times last game, 0 catches, 0 yards, dropped a goose egg. Same thing with Allen Lazard. Also was on the field technically. I can prove it to you here. Allen Lazard was on the field for 65% of the plays, did not even get targeted. So what to do with these wide receivers? They're both going to be very good GPP options based on what they did last game at 4.6K and 4.2K. Technically, Allen Lazard was actually on the field more than Valdes-Scantling, not last game, but just overall. He has been 66.4% of the time, and Valdes-Scantling 64.8%. So it's not too much of a discrepancy, but still a slight discount there on Allen Lazard. I technically like him a little bit more than Valdes-Scantling. Regardless, I mean, they're both going to be GPP viable plays. I don't hate them as last pieces in cash if you happen to land on them, but those price tags are far, far too cheap for me to ignore them altogether. I'm definitely going to have some exposure. I don't recommend them in the captain spot just because I think there's some other players on the slate with higher upside. Actually, Devontae Adams himself and also Aaron Jones. Randall Cobb was on the field for about 26% of snaps last game. I believe he got targeted. Oh yeah, he got targeted big time, three times for 3 catches. Technically outperformed the other 2. I think that was a bit of an outlier performance there for Randall Cobb at 7.1%. Don't hate him as a GPP play, but I do prefer Scantling and Lazard over Randall Cobb, and these guys as last pieces for cash. Switching over to the tight end position here, Robert Tonyan did catch a touchdown last game, got targeted 3 times for 3 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Don't hate him for GBPs, but this price tag is very hefty here at 6.8K. We're going to need him to give me at least 13 points for that to make sense, and for him to do that, he's going to have to score a touchdown. So it's 16.2%, 16.3% rather. I'm not too high on him, especially at that 6.8K price tag. Excuse me. Last but not least, Mason Crosby, always a play there, a very good kicker at 3.8K. I do favor the San Francisco 49ers team kicker over Crosby, just because if the game script does play into their favor, they should win this game by 3 points. They should be in the red zone more often than not, according to Vegas. So I do prefer the other kicker. But Mason Crosby, if you're landing on the double kicker build, because I know that is a good build to land on in terms of cash, and yeah, I don't hate them as a last piece. Last but not least, let's switch over to the 49ers, and this is going to be a headache because they have a lot of question marks on their roster. Jimmy G is not one of them. Let's talk about him. 39% owned, 10.2K. I do think he's going to be a cash viable option. You're going to have to favor one, or you're going to have to fade one of those 4 superstars that we've already talked about: Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. Did I say Devontae Adams? No, Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy G. So 4 guys there with very heavy price tags and also showing a ton of ownership. So unless you get a very cheap guy in the captain spot, you're going to have to fade one of these guys. I think Jimmy G might be that odd man out. I know that they're projected to win this, but we know that San Francisco 49ers do rely a lot on their rushing game. And I do like the running back situation here. Let's talk about it. With Eli Mitchell officially doubtful here for the Sunday night football game between the Packers, he's 7.2K, and that completely screws up the pricing here for these running backs because now we have a starter in Trey Sermon, who, by the way, is out of that concussion protocol. He went out in the very first play of the game, last game, and now he's good to go at 3K. So this guy should get a bulk of the carries at a near minimum price tag at 3K. He should be the chalkiest guy in the slate. It shows here the ownership is not completely updated based on the news that we've already heard about Eli Mitchell. 17.4% owned. Trey Sermon should be the chalkiest guy in the slate by far, and he does make for a very good captain in cash builds, and honestly could be a very good captain in general for upside because he should get a bulk of the carries for this offense. So it was looking like he was going to do that last game. Again, he went out very early at 3K. Love his price tag there. And probably, well, I'm not even going to say probably, he is my favorite overall value play on this slate. Hughes check at $800 is technically showing the second highest owned of these running backs, even though he's a fullback. He has been paying off his price tag here. 3.7 fantasy points last game and 1.7. He doesn't have too much sheer upside, but as a last piece, I definitely don't hate it. Again, for $800, you literally have to get 1.6 fantasy points to hit your value. He's hit value in both of his last 2 games. And plus, these guys are very thin on the running back situation. Now let's talk about the rest of these running backs. Who's going to start behind Trey Sermon? Is it going to be Trenton Cannon? Is it going to be Jaquez Patrick? Let's take a look at their roster. So on their official depth chart here, we have Jaquez Patrick in the 4th spot right behind Trey Sermon. So I can only assume he's going to play behind him when we take a look at the snap counts here. We have Trenton Cannon playing 7.2% of the snaps, played 13% in week 1, 1% last game, and in week 1 he played for the Baltimore Ravens, so he literally played 1% there for the 49ers. Taking a look down the list, there is literally no Jaquez Patrick shares whatsoever. So if he's actually behind him in the 4th spot on the depth chart, is he actually going to play? He probably will. And I do favor Jaquez Patrick over Trenton Cannon just because Trenton Cannon just got over from the Baltimore Ravens. But I do like all 3 of them just in terms of actual value. When we look at Trenton Cannon's price tag, $2.8K, again, still very cheap. And then Jaquez Patrick at $200, again, is my second favorite value play on the slate because as long as he sees the field for, I don't know, 10% of plays and he gets the ball once, he has to hit 0.4 points to hit that value. Now, relating back to the original conversation that we had about getting Jimmy G, Devontae Adams, Jones, and who am I missing? Aaron Rodgers, sorry. Then you can potentially get these 2 value plays in there and then get all 4 of those superstars into your lineup very easily. I might have given away a lineup, but you can mess around with the builds there. But Trey Sermon at 17.4% and Jaquez Patrick are by far my favorite value plays on the slate. No debate. All right, and then Trenton Cannon, probably more of a GPP play in my opinion at 2.8K, and he could end up playing more than Jaquez Patrick. I'm just looking at the depth chart here, and based on what we've seen, they haven't really went to Cannon. And then the rest of these running backs, I mean, I'm not looking at them. I don't think that they go for running backs deep. They could, but I do think Trey Sermon sees a bulk of these carries, should see around 60% of the snaps here against the Green Bay Packers. Switching over to the wide receiver position, yet another very confusing picture. We have Deebo Samuel at 42% owned, Ayuk at 16.9%, Trent Sherfield at 15.9, Mohamed Sanu at 8.5. What I did is I went over to the snap counts. Let's actually take a look here. With Ayuk back in the fold here, he played 54% of snaps last game compared to Deebo Samuel's 70. So Deebo Samuel is still the wide receiver number 1 in terms of the snap counts, and that's the reason why he's showing so much ownership. So yes, in terms of the overall wide receiver picture, I still like Deebo Samuel. I get that his price tag is a little expensive. Ayuk all the way at $5,600, but both of these guys are teetering on that cash GPP category. I don't hate them, love them for cash or GPPs. They're just kind of there. And Deebo Samuel's technically showing the second highest owned on the slate. I get it based on what he's been doing, but keep in mind these ownerships aren't completely updated as of right now. I don't hate or love either one, just kind of a neutral stance. Trent Sherfield, let's take a look at him here. I was looking at him earlier. Yeah, showing 40.8% over the past 2 weeks, played 34% of snaps in week 2. And again, I'm just kind of like meh on him. He's 1.2K, very cheap. And if he does catch a ball or two, then yeah, he's going to hit value at 15.9%. Don't see tremendous upside from him. I see a lot more upside here from Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. The rest of these wide receivers, I'm not really considering whatsoever. Sanu is playing less than Sherfield in terms of snap counts, so don't like him at that 1.4K price tag. Would definitely have to catch a touchdown, be more heavily involved in the offense, but that's probably not going to happen. Last but not least, let's talk about George Kittle. George Kittle has been a headache from the start because he's on the field literally all the time, but he hasn't done anything. He's been targeted, but he just hasn't done anything with the opportunity. So I hope that changes because I haven't been season long. And just to show you here, he's played 95% and 100% of snaps week 1 and 2. What's his deal? You know, he's due for a big game here, and this definitely could be the one, and you could get him at potentially low ownership. You think about any George Kittle showdown slate, he's usually one of the highest owned guys on the slate at 8.2K. So the reason why I don't love Deebo Samuel is because I love George Kittle here because you can get a discount on him, and he's also going to be lower owned. I consider him also cash viable at the 8.2K price tag. I know the way that lineup construction is kind of working out, he probably won't end up being in my cash build, but I don't mind him as a last piece here at an 8.2K price tag. These other guys I'm not really considering even at their price tags. It's just going to be George Kittle. We know that he is the guy there at that tight end position. And that's it. For kicker, I do like Robbie Gould at 22.1% compared to Crosby. I like them both. They should both be in field goal range a majority of the game. And defenses, I'm not considering whatsoever. There's no way that they make the optimal. And as I say that, they probably will. The final score will probably be 10 to 13, 5 combined turnovers, and they'll both make the optimal. No, I don't really see there's a way for these defenses to make the optimal. If you want to start the defenses, by all means, feel free to do that and lose money. Let's now switch over to my favorite prize pick on this slate. If you guys haven't signed up for prize picks, first of all, what are you doing? Enter code using DGF for 100% matchup to $100. It's a game where you simply hit the over or under on any certain fantasy point projection that you like. One of the easiest ways to play daily fantasy sports today. It looks like all the faces just loaded for me. Brandon Ayuk at 7.5 fantasy points. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot in this game, the 49ers, if they want to keep up with the pace of this game here with the Packers. I really like this fantasy score at 7.5. I talked about Brandon Ayuk being underpriced there on the main slate. I really do like this fantasy projection here at 7.5. Go ahead and hit that over and sign up using code DGF for a 100% match up to $100. And that will end our video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this content. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future NFL content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your night, and let's cash.